In terms of the fourth quarter, they had all but one of their buckets was inside the paint. Was that them just being able to get into the paint and get whatever they want because of that point of attack defense like you were talking about?
Yeah, they had that and 9 free throws.
Look at this. Seriously, elbows Lexi Hall, then purposely steps over so she couldn't get up.
The Indiana Fever were on fire. They blew past Paige Bueckers and the Dallas Wings, dominated the Minnesota Lynx to claim their first Commissioner's Cup title, and completely dismantled A'ja Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces. 3 straight wins. The hype was real. Even without Caitlin Clark, everyone expected them to breeze past the struggling Los Angeles Sparks, one of the worst teams in the league. But what happened next was infuriating. The officiating was so blatantly bad, all Stephanie White could say were 5 words that exposed everything wrong with this league. What do you think about the WNBA refs? Let us know in the comments.
We should have won this game. There was inconsistencies in the officiating. Wait until you see the second half. And I have everything.
Fever entered the game without their biggest star, and no one could have predicted what came next. Caitlin Clark was out with a left groin injury, marking her 5th straight game on the sidelines. Her absence completely disrupted the team's rhythm. Without Clark's playmaking and scoring presence, the Fever looked like a shell of themselves.
Finding out this morning that we probably need to hold out again today. It really is a day-to-day thing. And I think for us, making sure that we're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness. It's anybody who's had some of these types of injuries understand that sometimes it's a process. She's a quick healer and she's been doing everything that she can to get back on the floor. So, we just want to make sure that we're hypersensitive to the big picture.
But that wasn't the end of their setbacks. Damaris Dantas was off representing her country in the FIBA Americas, forcing the Fever to reshuffle their rotations. Another key piece, gone. Dantas brought size, experience, and stability off the bench. Then came the bombshell. Danielle Robinson had quit the team entirely. 3 major losses all at once. And yet, the Fever were still favored. ESPN's matchup predictor gave them a 72.9% chance to win. MGM had them as 6.5-point favorites. The reasoning? Simple. The Sparks have been one of the worst teams in the WNBA all season. Meanwhile, Indiana was riding high after a dominant 3-game streak. Aaliyah Boston was in top form. Kelsey Mitchell was emerging as a leader. The chemistry looked strong. On paper, the Fever should have coasted to a win, but something was simmering beneath the surface. Without Caitlin Clark orchestrating the offense, the Fever's pace had slowed to a crawl. The ball wasn't zipping around the court like it used to. The energy, the urgency, it just wasn't there. Aaliyah Boston, usually a dominant force in the paint, wasn't getting the touches she needed to impose her will. The entire offensive flow that once clicked so seamlessly under Clark's leadership began to unravel. Sure, the Fever still had talent, multiple all-star caliber players who'd stepped up before. And the Sparks? They were a team barely holding it together, struggling to stay competitive night after night. So how, with all the odds in their favor, could Indiana possibly lose this game?
Breanna Stewart, A'ja Wilson. Wait until you see what they did for Kelsey Plum tonight. They get all the calls. And guess what happens? The best center in the game. And guess what happens to her? She gets called for every touch foul and ends up in foul trouble this entire season and is still putting up MVP type numbers. What happens with Caitlin Clark? Have you ever seen her get a touch foul? Phantom call? No. The physicality, that's the WNBA when it comes to Caitlin Clark.
Expectations were sky high. Most believed that raw talent alone would be enough to carry the Fever through. After all, this was a team that had already proven it could win under pressure. Even with key absences, Indiana still had championship-level talent on the floor. The Sparks, by contrast, were seen as little more than an afterthought, a team the Fever should have handled with ease. But this perfect storm of missing pieces set the stage for disaster. The chemistry that had looked so strong during their 3-game winning streak was, in truth, built around Caitlin Clark's leadership. With her gone, the system started to fray. The offense lacked direction. The role players who thrived in their defined positions were suddenly forced to stretch beyond their comfort zones. Responsibilities shifted, uncertainty crept in, and as the game tipped off, the weight of those absences, both strategic and emotional, began to drag the team down.
What does it take to get a team to be more consistent, especially from you on the coaching side of things?
Yeah, I think a couple things. There's always got to be a high attention to knowing personnel. Oftentimes you don't get a lot of practice time, and so going over a lot of their sets, which you do, but at the end of the day, making sure we know our personnel, who we're going to run off the 3-point line, what we're willing to give up. We've got to make sure that there's a high attention to detail there.
Even as the team faltered, 3 players refused to let the Fever go down quietly. Leading that charge was Aaliyah Boston, who put on an absolute clinic in the paint. She finished with 23 points and 12 rebounds, a stat line worthy of a win. Boston shot 9 of 17 from the field and hit 5 of 7 from the free throw line, delivering exactly the kind of performance you'd expect from a cornerstone player. After being underutilized early, she finally got the touches she deserved when it mattered most. And she delivered. With power, poise, and presence, Boston reminded everyone why she's one of the most dominant forces in the league. Kelsey Mitchell rose to the moment in Clark's absence, stepping up as the team's primary scoring threat. She poured in 19 points and drilled 3 clutch three-pointers at critical moments when the Fever desperately needed a spark. But her impact went beyond the scoreboard. Mitchell also reached a major career milestone, suiting up for her 251st game with the Fever, second only to franchise legend Tamika Catchings. Her leadership was on full display throughout the night, guiding the offense, keeping the energy high, and doing everything she could to keep Indiana in the fight against a team they should have put away with ease. But the surge didn't stop there. Natasha Howard brought her veteran presence and delivered one of her most efficient performances of the season. She racked up 21 points and 9 rebounds, falling just shy of a double-double. Howard was nearly unstoppable, shooting an impressive 8 of 11 from the field, including 1 of 2 from beyond the arc. She also sank 4 of 6 from the free throw line, providing much-needed scoring and stability. Her impact wasn't limited to offense. Howard made her presence felt on both ends of the floor, stepping up in key moments and keeping the Fever within striking distance.
Cunningham, Colson, give and go, and Colson hits a 3.
These 3 players carried the entire team on their shoulders. They put up championship-level performances against a squad that, on paper, should have crumbled under the pressure. Aaliyah Boston owned the paint like the all-star she is. Kelsey Mitchell knocked down clutch shots that kept the Fever within reach, and Natasha Howard, with her veteran poise, made the kind of high IQ plays younger players just can't replicate. Picture it, Boston dominating down low, Mitchell catching fire from all over the floor, and Howard making smart, timely moves that kept Indiana's hopes alive. The comeback was unfolding in real time. The energy in the building shifted. You could feel the crowd starting to believe. The momentum was turning, and it was all leaning toward the Fever.
Here's Plum on the drive, hangs, and finishes.
Here's where everything took a turn. Despite the individual brilliance on display, the game's narrative started to shift. Not because of the players, but because of the officiating. One questionable call after another went against the Fever, and it wasn't subtle. The tipping point? Sophie Cunningham was blatantly grabbed around the neck, and instead of a foul, the officials bizarrely called a jump ball. It was the kind of call that left fans stunned and players visibly frustrated. The momentum the Fever had worked so hard to build was now being undercut by decisions they couldn't control. As the clock ticked down and the game hung in the balance, the controversial calls just kept coming. One after another, the whistles seemed to work against the Fever. You could see the frustration boiling over on the court, not from lack of effort, but from the feeling that the game was slipping away for reasons beyond their control. Boston was still playing at an elite level, dominating the paint. Mitchell kept hitting the kind of shots that should have sealed a win. Howard was making smart, seasoned plays that screamed championship pedigree. But every time Indiana started to gain momentum, another questionable call snatched it away. Their fight was undeniable, but the officiating made it feel like the outcome was already decided. In the end, not even their heroic efforts were enough to overcome the wave of controversial calls that ultimately decided the game. The heartbreak was written all over their faces, a mix of disbelief, frustration, and exhaustion. They had battled with everything they had, only to watch a winnable game slip through their fingers, lost not to a better team, but to circumstances completely out of their control.
And this is fourth quarter. Look at this. This one pissed me off. Kelsey Plum seriously elbows Lexi Hall, then purposely steps over so she couldn't get up.
After watching her team battle to the bitter end, only to fall in heartbreaking fashion, head coach Stephanie White finally stepped up to the podium. The post-game press conference was thick with tension. Her frustration wasn't hidden. It was etched into her face. She had just witnessed her players leave everything on the floor. Boston dominated the paint. Mitchell delivered in the clutch. Howard made all the right veteran plays. And still, it wasn't enough. The room fell quiet as reporters waited for her reaction. White, usually composed and measured, known for choosing her words with precision, looked visibly shaken. This one hurt more than most. This wasn't just a loss, it was a gut punch. Indiana had just dropped a game to one of the worst teams in the league, a game they were expected to win without breaking a sweat.
In terms of the fourth quarter, they had all but one of their buckets was inside the paint. Was that them just being able to get into the paint and get whatever they want because of that point of attack defense like you were talking about?
Yeah, they had that and 9 free throws.
Here's where things got really telling. Stephanie White kept her response short. Just 5 powerful words. We didn't get the calls. That was it. No rant, no outburst, just 5 words that captured the full weight of the injustice her team had just endured. The frustration in her voice said the rest. The disappointment on her face said even more. White had just watched her team get stripped of a hard-earned victory, not by superior play, but by officiating that tipped the scales. Let's break down the moments that changed everything. Sophie Cunningham was grabbed by the neck, an obvious foul in any game, but instead of calling it, the refs awarded a jump ball. That's not basketball. That's favoritism. And it didn't stop there. Aaliyah Boston was repeatedly whistled for soft, borderline touch fouls, while the Sparks got away with far more aggressive, physical play on the other end. The double standard was blatant, and everyone watching saw it.
I mean, look, there are going to be days where you make shots and miss shots. I mean, that's part of it. I thought, AB had a really good look at the end, and so sometimes it just doesn't fall your way. So we're looking more about execution. I didn't feel like our execution was all that good at the end. I felt like in our reset timeout, it wasn't very good either. And, that's on us, continuing to make sure that we are going over that, as often as possible when we have our practice time and making sure that we're sharp in those areas.
Stephanie White's 5-word statement captured exactly what every Fever fan was feeling: anger, disbelief, and heartbreak. She spoke not just as a coach, but as the voice of an entire fan base. Fans were yelling at their screens, watching in real time as terrible calls shaped the outcome of a game that should have been theirs. White put that collective frustration into words. We didn't get the calls. It wasn't just a comment, it was a rallying cry, and it connects to a bigger story. The Fever aren't just dealing with tough opponents, they're battling adversity on every front. They've lost their star player. Their rotations have been disrupted by injuries and roster shakeups. Now, they're being forced to fight through inconsistent, one-sided officiating. The odds keep stacking higher, and yet they keep pushing. Here's what's remarkable. This loss actually proved how good this team really is. Despite everything, no Clark, key absences, unfair calls, the Fever still came within reach of a win. Boston was dominant. Mitchell rose as a leader. Howard anchored the team with veteran poise. The talent is there. The heart is there. The foundation is being built. This isn't just a loss. It's a glimpse of what's coming. When Clark returns and this team is finally at full strength, this kind of adversity will be their fuel. White's words didn't just express frustration. They sent a message. This team refuses to back down. They're building championship character the hard way, through every setback, every slight, every missed call. And when their moment comes, they'll be ready.
Just gets it into Alamon, right back to Jackson. Hamby, corner 3, she connects.
This heartbreaking loss actually revealed something incredible about the Fever's championship potential. Take a step back and look at what just happened. Indiana was missing 3 key players and still came within striking distance of a win. That's not a sign of weakness. That's resilience. That's raw strength shining through adversity. And here's where it gets really exciting. Missing Clark, Dantas, and Bonner should have been a death blow against any WNBA team, but the Fever didn't fold. They stayed competitive for all 40 minutes. They kept fighting. They kept believing. And they proved that their foundation is built to last. Even better, Caitlin Clark's return is just around the corner. She's been active in drills, present on the bench, and locked in with the team. Coach White is wisely prioritizing her long-term health, but there's a real chance she's back as early as Wednesday against the Golden State Valkyries. Now, imagine this lineup at full strength. Clark running the floor with her elite playmaking. Boston dominating the paint, Mitchell hitting clutch shots, Nalissa Smith bringing energy and defensive hustle, Howard anchoring the squad with veteran experience. That's not just a good team, that's a championship-caliber roster. And the best part? They're just getting started.
Howard left alone, answers with a 3.
But that's not all. This young core isn't just talented. They're being battle-tested in the most unforgiving conditions. Aaliyah Boston has shown she can carry a team on her back when it matters most. Kelsey Mitchell has stepped confidently into a leadership role, averaging an impressive 21.6 points per game during Clark's 5-game absence. These players aren't just getting by without their star. They're evolving into championship-ready contributors. And it's not just about now, it's about what this means for 2025. Right now, this team is gaining chemistry, experience, and grit, the kind you can't teach in practice. Every hard-fought loss is a lesson. Every close finish sharpens their poise. Every milestone is a sign of growth. Mitchell just hit 600 career three-pointers. Howard surpassed 2,000 career rebounds. Boston is steadily cementing herself as a perennial all-star. This is a team quietly building something special. And when the full roster is healthy, they won't just be good. They'll be dangerous.
Plum fires inside, Hamby ducks in and finishes.
The road ahead offers the Fever a chance to prove just how dangerous they really are. Upcoming matchups against Golden State, Atlanta, Dallas, Connecticut, and New York, these are the kinds of games that forge championship teams. And when Caitlin Clark returns, this battle-tested squad won't just be back. They'll be ready to dominate. Here's the part every other team should be worried about. The ones that beat the Fever while they were down, the ones that capitalized on their injuries, their absences, their growing pains, they won't be forgotten. The Sparks have taken 2 games off Indiana this season. Other teams took advantage of a team still finding its rhythm. But when this roster is fully healthy, the Fever are going to remember every bad call, every missed opportunity, every team that kicked them while they were down. This pain is building something special. This frustration is fueling hunger. This adversity is forging a team with the mental toughness to survive the playoffs and thrive when everything's on the line. This loss wasn't the end. It was a warning shot. Stay loyal, because Clark's return is coming. And when she's back, this team still has the firepower and momentum to chase a top 4 seed and make serious noise in the postseason. The revenge tour is coming. Let us know in the comments what you think about the WNBA officiating. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a video.